Today, we go on another adventure to the country of Israel. Good morning to wherever you are. This is your Java Man, and I did an AMA on Reddit, I think a couple weeks ago, where a guy brought up saying, hey, coffee is pretty big here in Israel. You want to check it out and look it up for your coffee around the world? And I said, hey, that sounds fantastic. So today we are going to the country of Israel for coffee around the world. Now, at the beginning of this new country back in the late 40s, or going on to about the 50s, these coffee shops didn't really have coffee at this time. It was a fairly rare commodity since it was a post-World War II country, so they sold instead soda water. With this soda water, they kind of just did it as their own version of coffee where they could drink it, sit outside, enjoy the nice day, argue about politics, that kind of thing. Now, with this newly founded country with all these refugees, it wasn't very liked in the Middle East, so they had to build an army, and you had to serve in the reserves until the age of 50, serving for about a month or two each year. Now, remember, these refugees, they probably don't know each other. They came from all over Europe, all over probably Asia, even the Middle East, all just flooding into this country, so they don't really know each other that well. So what better way to get to know somebody over a cup of joe? Now, you might be wondering, okay, did they use like a portable electric coffee brewer? How did they do this? Well, in Turkey, they had something known as an ibrik or a fanjan, and it was this little brass kind of pot with a little handle on it, and they heated this over their campfires, over their portable stoves to heat their water and make their coffee. Now, moving on to the 60s and the 70s, NESCAFÉ started becoming pretty big there in Israel. What was interesting with NESCAFÉ is Ness in Hebrew means miracle, and so they thought this was some sort of miracle drink, maybe, perhaps, and coffee to some people really is, but it was much different than their coffee they were making in this fanjan, where the fanjan, it was a little bit kind of muddier, a little thicker, with the ground still sitting in the coffee. However, this NESCAFÉ was an instant coffee. You get some hot water, you take these coffee granules essentially, and you mix them together, and it makes a very crisp, clean cup of coffee, which, perceived to some, I would imagine, would look like a miracle. Now, the coffee culture there in Israel was inspired more by their local population. The local Arab population was known for sitting, brewing their coffee, getting to know each other, and just staying there and socializing for hours. Whereas here in America, we grab our big old cup of joe and we're on the road going to work, just chugging it on the way. What's so interesting with this is this has been ingrained into their culture. They had the espresso machine kind of brought up within the past decade or so. And they can make their espressos and macchiatos and everything. And Italian culture, they're very much on the go and moving. But what I find is interesting is Starbucks tried in 2001 to set up shop in Tel Aviv. However, they did not last very long. They went from 2001 only till 2003. Now, whether it was the pumpkin spice lattes that didn't go so well with the Israelis, or it was just the culture mindset where with Starbucks you get this huge milkshake flavored coffee and you're running to work, it didn't, settle well. I didn't know if there was something political as well going on there with Starbucks, but they closed up shop only 2 years later after they opened for business in Tel Aviv. Now, with such a high Jewish population in Israel, you have to keep in mind keeping things kosher. Now, coffee in and of itself is kosher. However, the process of making it needs to fall under these guidelines. First off, the machinery and the utensils used must fall under Jewish law. And then second, the production must be overseen by a rabbi. Now, the process of packaging, storing, and getting specific flavors in their coffee needs to be overseen pretty intensely because some of these practices may break Jewish law. Now say you're going to Israel and you're looking for a good old cup of joe. Now of course, again, I mentioned they do have some espresso machines, so you can have your lattes, cappuccinos, your mochas, any kind of drink associated with espresso that you would like. However, if you really want to go and get a local coffee, you want to stick with your mud coffee. Now you remember that little brass bowl I was telling you about, the little brass one with the handle, the finjan? They like to add all their ingredients in, which includes their hot water, their sugar, their coffee, and a lot of them, especially within the Middle East, they love cardamom because of its wonderful aromatic aroma, and it brings a nice flavor to it as well, so cardamom may be involved as well. Now what is interesting with this coffee is they do not remove the coffee grounds. What they do is they mix it in together real well and then let it settle. And then from there you of course drink your coffee, and when you get to the bottom, this is where the term mud coffee comes from. So I hope you enjoyed our trip to Israel with Coffee Around the World. If I missed anything, please let me know. I love learning. And if you have a country or a state even that you're really interested in about their coffee culture, please send me a comment in the comments below. If you have an idea for any other videos, if you just had a spark of interest that you want to share with your job man, please throw me a comment below and let's go brew up some love for somebody.